This tutorial covers the grid functionality of ShareMyToolbox's web interface that was updated and released January the 3rd. At its conclusion, you should be familiar with sorting, filtering data, and grouping tool records, and also moving and resizing columns. When you first log into the web interface, your initial view will be the Tools tab. There's quite a bit of flexibility with the grid, and this will be your primary method of viewing and managing your tool database. So make sure you have a good understanding of how our grid works. I would start by sizing your screen to what's comfortable for you and the monitor that you're using. For the purposes of this tutorial, I've sized to fit my laptop, but my actual screen is quite a bit larger and could fit a lot more information. I'm using Chrome, so I can also zoom in or zoom out by clicking on the menu button at the top. Purely a personal preference. Other browsers should have similar settings. You'll notice that if you slide the bar over, every field on the tool record is shown. There are several things you can do to customize the information you want to see. Start by selecting the number of records on the drop-down list you would like to see per page. Note that the grid defaults to 20, so we're seeing records 1 to 20 of 220 items in the bottom right. The grid will refresh faster the fewer the records you display. However, there are only a few situations where you'll need to show all records, such as exporting, so keep this in mind. There are several things you can do now to change how the columns appear. You can grab the edge of a column to change its width, either make it bigger or smaller. You can click on a column and drag it to a different location. So for example, if I'd like category near the beginning, just drag it over. You can also click on the down arrow and select the column option and unclick the columns you wish to hide. So if there's some things that are not pertinent to you, just unclick them. These will all go away. So now when you can see when we slide over, we see fewer options. When you get the grid in the format you like, click Save My Grid to save your changes. Exiting the system or clicking on the refresh button at the very top, you don't see this on your screen because I've eliminated that from the recording here, but if you click on the web page refresh, then everything will return to the default format. To retrieve your save settings, just click Load My Grid and it'll put it back to the way you saved it. There are a lot of neat features of the grid that allow you to search and report on the tool database. You can sort on any field by clicking on the column description. So if I click on category, it will sort from A to Z. If I click again, it'll sort from Z to A. So clicking several times will toggle between ascending and descending order. You can also select that same option from the drop-down button on the column. To filter data, click on the menu drop-down and select Filter. When selecting a filter, make sure to click on the Boolean operator first, otherwise your sidebar will not stay in place. So click on the Boolean operator, and I suggest clicking Contains and then enter a value. Next, click on the filter button to execute the filter, and it will display anything that matches that selection. The display options depend on the type of data in the column, whether it's a text or numeric field. So if you have a purchase date or something like that, I'll refresh my screen to show you some of the other options. The Boolean operators will be a little bit different. So it'll have greater than, equal, before, so forth. If it's a true-false field, such as sharing status, then you might have a couple radio buttons. Just select shared or not shared and then click filter. To clear your options, you can either refresh the screen or go back to filter and click on clear the filter here, and that will clear all your filter options. The last major feature of the grid is the grouping bar. Note in the lower right corner that I have 220 items in my database. If you have a large database, start by changing the items per page to all. This will make this a little bit easier to use. The grouping results displayed will be cleaner if you do this first. So, for example, if you're selecting only 20 items per page, the groups will overlap multiple pages if you exceed 20 records. There's a lot of nice ways to group your data, for example, by the employees to whom you've loaned a tool. So let's select that one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag that column description up to the grouping bar. Note that there's a little triangle beside the grouping that allows you to collapse the data. Note that we also subtotal the records within each group. So if we're on Tim's crew, go down to the bottom of Tim's crew, we get a subtotal. So we've got 44 records, 44 tools for Tim out of 220 total, and we also have a subtotal by purchase value as well. So in the entire database we've got 88,000, we've got 15,600 for just Tim's crew. Another thing that's nice about groups, it's possible to have groups within groups. So if we want to see a category of tool within each employee grouping, let's drag that up. Now we can see within Chris we've got a drill. Within Tim's crew we've got one bandsaw, we've got 7 benchtop tools, and so forth. If we want to delete a group, just click the X at the top and that'll remove it. And return it back to my default. So there's a lot of power and flexibility with our web grid. So experiment, have a little bit of fun, play with it. For an additional reporting option, make sure to watch our exporting to Excel video. This concludes the grid tutorial. Thank you very much.